Hello everyone and welcome to BDO in Australia's new series, Fintechs for the Future. My name is Tim Aman, I'm BDO's Global Fintech Leader. In this new series, I'll be joined by some of the Fintech industry's most inspiring leaders and innovators as we unpack their stories, journeys, and challenges. We'll also play a round of the Fast Five, a game where we rapid-fire questions at our guests and uncover their personalities. In this episode, I'm pleased to be joined by Ryan Edwards-Pritchard, founder and CEO of Cape. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
You ready for the Fast Five?
Oh God, let's see.
Cape was founded in 2020 and provides an expense management software to streamline and automate a company's finances. Cape offers an all-in-one platform to spend smarter, cut wasteful purchases, reduce number crunching, and boost business. Their automated expense management connects directly to your accounting software, and Cape also issues both virtual and physical corporate cards. Prior to Cape, Ryan was a managing director at Funding Options, a platform connecting business owners and financiers. He also worked in the DBSF executive team, which exited to the Aman Group in 2016. Welcome, Ryan.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me. That's a thorough overview.
I do like how you exited to the Aman Group, which is my last name. But maybe it's called something different. Maybe it was the Aman Group, but I like the last name.
Maybe it was you pulling the strings in the background all along.
It might have been. I was the puppet master behind
There
that.
we go.
So,
I've got a lot to thank. Thank you.
No problem. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about how you first got into the fintech space.
Yeah, sure. I guess kind of starting off, the jokes aside in terms of the Aman Group, originally I got into the regulatory change space. So just post GFC, I moved from Newcastle, down to London, the great brain drain that happens over in the UK. Everybody kind of seems to all roads lead there. And 2008, 2009, we're reeling from the repercussions in terms of GFC. Obviously, we're starting to see similar things, not quite the same, play out again in terms of repercussions from the likes of Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, Northern Rock. And from that, we saw a number of different sweeping changes come through on a regulatory and policy perspective, which gave me my first opportunity more within the financial services space, and that was dealing with regulatory change for buy and sell side firms. So looking at Basel II, MiFID, Solvency II, Dodd-Frank, these kind of things. But from that, going into, I guess, the kind of fintech ecosystem, my first foray was actually more in the Web3 space when it wasn't obviously labelled Web3. And it was actually more within specifically the blockchain space and less so the crypto space. So launched a group called the Post-Trade Distributed Ledger Group. There we go, there's a mouthful. And that was alongside the London Stock Exchange. And it was looking at applications in terms of blockchain technology into, again, buy-sell side firms, but looking specifically in terms of the settlements and clearing process, which happens, and it's not necessarily something that will happen in hours or days, but usually weeks, and how we could apply that. And that was my first kind of look into this kind of divergence in terms of software and financial services coming together, and that kind of gave me a taste of actually there is something here that is more meaningful than looking at regulatory policies. And from that I started kind of looking into making my first kind of steps in, and first big opportunity was with Funding Options. At that point in time, 2015, we had two different businesses. There was a business called Check Business, and then the other one was Funding Options. Mm-hmm. The founder was quite a fan of Google search, and this was a time where you'd literally name your business for the domain authority in terms of people, whatever they put in, not necessarily for branding or anything else. And the kind of premise of it was looking at how we as consumers would look at our consumer credit score and trying to improve that over time, that businesses should do the same thing. So that was the Check Business part. Mm-hmm. And the idea is if you could work with businesses ahead of time, they'd never get themselves into a crunch where they're desperately looking for help. However, the Funding Options part was a digital marketplace for SME finance. Hundreds of different alternative finance lenders, everything from asset finance, property finance, and working capital solutions. And just that one-stop shop, so an SME could go into there, search, compare, close some type of finance as easy as possible. And although when I joined, the main resources were all on the Check Business part, I joined on the Funding Options part. We quickly found product market fit within about a 12-month period in terms of the Funding Options arm, and really just put all the resources into that and scale that up. And I was really fortunate to go on an incredible journey where we started off with just a handful of us, and over a 4-year period grew that to 100 people, from one country across to 3 countries. We secured a Series A investment from ING's corporate venture arm, which is fantastic. Long process, corporate venture typically is. It's a lot more thorough. And yeah, early adopters of open banking, and that was back in 2017 through the Nesta Open Up Challenge Prize before it even actually was launched officially into the market. And then that kind of gave me a lot of the thinking around the evolution of the SME market. And we were just starting to see some of these changes come through, which was quite an exciting time, at least in the UK, and we're starting to see it in Australia as well. And typically, consumers are always the ones that go first over SMEs whenever it comes to technological innovation. And in terms of the UK, we saw the e-money license come up after the back of the GFC, which then kind of propelled new consumer-facing neobanks into the marketplace, the Monzos, the Starlings, the Revoluts, these kind of guys. And the SMEs were always a couple of years behind, but we started to see that come in through 2015, 2016. Again, Fintech experience is kind of relevant for this conversation. I started to see the emergence of this new category that was kind of replacing traditional transactional bank accounts for SMEs, deposit accounts, and was merging all these different things together. And that was the kind of the catalyst for some of the thinking around building Cape. And around about that time, we started partnering with Tide Bank, which is one of the UK's largest SME challenger banks, and they've got about 10% of the market share. They actually acquired Funded Options in the end. It's a great acquisition tool for them. Yeah, that was kind of it. I don't want to go too far, but that was kind of the initial kind of foray into fintech, and like from financial services into fintech, into software, but not necessarily into Australia just yet.
Okay, and so that's good background. I guess in terms of then that led you to Cape. You started to talk about that. So it was a combination of different thinking. And I guess what is some of the background around, one, the name Cape, and I guess, the founding of that particular company?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So part of my role with Funded Options was internationalization. It's typically, if you're a Western country, Western fintech, there's only a handful of different territories speak the same languages that you can go to. Obviously, North America, if you want. Canada being the other one, depending which part. And then Australia, New Zealand. And there's a couple of other areas you might look at in terms of Europe. And when I was internationalizing Funded Options, I was looking down at where were the potential tailwinds coming through. And especially in terms of the regulatory side. And one of the things that we're early adopters in was open banking, obviously CDR over here. Yeah. And as I actually started to explore this territory for Funded Options, I saw just this glorious opportunity where it was frankly unsaturated. In the UK, we had kind of the emergence of Soldo, Pleo, Spendesk, Revolut Business, Monzo Business, Starling Business, Capital Tap, Cash Plus, 20 or 30 of these different type of spend management solutions. Hadn't seen the same prominence come through in Australia. And that was kind of the thinking to start really delving in a lot further in 2019 into the market opportunity to start and build something through from here. I think it's a fantastic fintech ecosystem that's been booming for the last couple of years, and that was it. That kind of brought me down to quit my job at Funded Options and to come down this way just before the pandemic, and to start really kind of trying to understand the ecosystem like on the ground as such. Those plans were somewhat foiled as what was initially a 3-month holiday. I say holiday, scouting mission, whatever we want to call it, recce. The pandemic happened, and I did have a ticket to go back home, but very much kind of cut that ticket up, and it was like one of those sliding door moments in life where I had enough conviction after that point of 3 months of meeting people within the ecosystem that this was a once in a lifetime opportunity to build something like Cape. And I stayed here, and I started trying to work out obviously how I could live here legally. And then later in terms of launching Cape, and we'll come on to that obviously later on, but in terms of the name itself, the thing that I realized was, running a business is incredibly hard. My background, I guess my kind of history with it, especially, I wouldn't call, say, entrepreneurs, but I come from a family of small business owners. And when I say small business owners, I mean pub owners, cafe owners, electricians, plumbers, like these kind of good hardy people, right? And they wouldn't necessarily look at themselves as an entrepreneur. They'd probably quiver in their seat around the thought of such a kind of thing, but they are business owners. The only thing that would, really buckle a sweat from them or kind of break them at times would be this idea of having to go in and go see the bank manager, And I always remember that with my dad kind of growing up. Grew up in a rural town in the northeast of England. Just this kind of idea of having to go on, put on the suit, put on the tie, get the briefcase, like it's so alien to him. And as a kid, it always kind of stayed with me. And I guess as an adult, then kind of seeing how this impacted other businesses. And the idea of Cape is just that. It's this idea that you've got something in your pocket that you can get out, you can put onto your back, and it helps you do amazing things. And I think that the idea of it is less about us and how great we are, but it's more about you. How great are you, and how do we help unlock just these amazing things? And that was kind of the background on the name.
Okay, thanks for that. In less than 3 years of operation, Cape has collected a number of impressive achievements, such as being a top 3 finalist in the Finder 22 Innovation Awards for Best Payment Innovation, partnerships with Kodak and Go Cardless, as well as raising over $30 million from the top funds and angels in Australia. What can you attribute this success and the rise of your company to?
Well, a number of different things. We've been really fortunate. I say fortunate, we've worked hard in terms of trying to build the team and build the culture, and especially in terms of this market, it's incredibly difficult. I think and just to say, we've raised to date 3 million, 30 million is the debt facility, which powers our corporate cards. But I think in terms of discipline, we have only ever known hard times. We came into the market at a point when we're in the pandemic, we're in lockdowns. I landed in Sydney, didn't know anybody, so I've had to be incredibly resourceful through that period to go and actually build out an ecosystem around us. And I think that kind of builds a lot of resilience in terms of as a culture. And as the market kind of corrected from going from a pandemic to then suddenly it was just like, woohoo, we're out of the pandemic, this is amazing. And then we had these kind of like go-go days in terms of investment, which was just crazy. And we were on the pre-seed stage. I think we were still a little bit early on that. Then all of a sudden we've then kind of gone into a recession and a different type of market environment. But for Cape, it's always been about resourcefulness, resilience, the kind of innovation in terms of how we're actually thinking about bringing our product into the market. And we've been very thoughtful in terms of how do we build the solution, build by partner, as resourcefully as possible so that we can actually provide the customers the most cost-effective solution out of anybody that's out there. Yeah.
So maybe talk a little bit about some of the developments you're excited about that are going to be coming out of Cape.
Yeah, sure. We've had an incredible quarter. And I imagine this is going to go out in the next couple of weeks, so I can openly say, we're launched in terms of a one-click automated accounting solution with friends over at Xero, which is fantastic, which is for a financial controller, finance manager, accountant, bookkeeper, collapses down in terms of the time it takes them to close their books at the end of the week, the end of the month, from something that's hours to then suddenly minutes. Went live this week publicly, but we're going to be doing an announcement over the coming days. The other things in terms of what we're really excited about recently that we've launched have been what we're calling Fractal, which is our analytical layer, our analytical dashboard. And that's really kind of just helping serve up insights to our customers around spending behavior. And one of the things that we have seen in terms of a trend is businesses wanting to have more visibility in terms of what's going on with their actual finances, who's spending what, by an individual, a team, a merchant, a category, but getting access to that information is incredibly difficult. So we partner with the likes of Basic, one of our mutual friends, Kodak, who you mentioned before, who get us access to other cloud accounting data. We actually consume all of this data and then provide the insights over the top of it. So that's something that we're going to continue to double down on over time. Aside from that, in terms of roadmap, our focus is towards our mission. Our mission is building towards complete expense nirvana. And as simple as that sounds, it's incredibly complex. But we've got a lot on our roadmap over the next 12 to 18 months. I think the market is changing. We've obviously seen SVBs collapse, the bank run. All these things are changing just supply and demand from small business owners, mid-sized businesses as well, especially around liquidity and treasury management. And that's putting more stress in a very positive way onto Cape in terms of demand for our product. So that's kind of just driving us into the market even quicker.
Okay, and how do you define success for Cape in 2023?
Ooh. Good question. So one of the metrics that we do actually focus on internally, and we feel like it's the right thing to focus on, is how much money are we actually putting back into the pockets of small businesses. And it's hard, it's not a simple thing. There's soft savings that you can look at in terms of amount of times time saved when it comes to closing the books, and then multiplying that out by somebody's salary, then there's actual hard savings, in terms of things like FX fees, things like cashback, things like identifying wasted spend, whether it's duplicated, orphaned, overlapping subscriptions, where cloud costs have kind of gone from here to here, literally within a period of a month or a quarter. For us, really, what success looks like is understanding what that metric is, and delivering money back into the pockets of our customers. And we're not talking about a small amount of money. For us, it would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars at the starting point. Okay. But really, where we want to get to is where we're actually driving millions of dollars back into the pockets of businesses, so that they can then actually accelerate their own growth. Redistribute those funds into different resources. For us, success is really, it's focused on just trying to continue towards that goal.
Okay, well, we'll check in at the end of the year, see how you're going on that.
Cool.
So,
thank you.
It's been wonderful hearing from you today, Ryan. But before you go, I wanted to ask you some rapid fire questions. We have to call the Fast Five. So, first thing that comes to your mind, and we'll go from there. You ready?
I think so.
Okay, this is a tough one. London or Sydney?
Sydney, obviously. Okay. Love it here.
What was your first job?
Paper round.
Paper round.
Yeah, I did a number of different jobs. Paper round and milk round. I washed dishes. I did everything at the age of 13 to 14.
Okay. T-shirts or hoodies?
T-shirts.
I know this one already. Manly or Bondi?
Manly.
Sunday roast or the chicken parmy?
I'm a vegetarian, so the Sunday roast.
Tofu roast.
Tofu roast, nut roast, whatever else it might be.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us and playing along. It's been wonderful getting to know you. Thank everyone for watching. We'll have new episodes available every month, so make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media to stay up to date. Thank you.